Hey everybody, it's Josie here. So this is the third part of my February wrap up. Like I said, I read a lot of books in February, so I thought I wanted to talk a bit more about the ones that I've read. And I thought I'd split these up because you don't want to listen to me talk for like 30 minutes at a time. So continuing on my theme, I was taking part in Feminist Feb. So all of these books were ones that I picked because I thought they'd have like a feminist bent, and a lot of them were female authors. Almost all of them were female authors as well. So the first one, speaking about feminist, and I heard, oh god, I can't remember the reviewer, but I heard someone else talk about this book and they tagged it as feminist as fuck, and that is so true. So I love this book. This is The Nowhere Girls by Amy Reed, and this book was in parts really difficult to read because it deals with, so the premise of the book is that in this town in the States, in this sort of small town, a girl was gang raped, a teenage girl was gang raped, but no one really believed her, and she was raped by the kind of the popular football jock boys at the school. And she's since moved away, and a new family has moved into town. They've moved into the house that Lucy, the girl that was raped, used to live in. And the main character, Grace, who's moved into this house, she kind of goes to the school. You can tell there's been something that has gone on before as well. She kind of obviously feels like a bit of an outsider, brand new school. And she makes friends with two of the girls that are also considered kind of the outsiders in the school. And she soon begins to realize that this kind of culture, this sort of rape culture, this culture of boys just viewing girls as kind of pieces of meat that they can discard, is really prevalent in this town, and really frankly prevalent in our society. The objectification of women and seeing them just purely as sexual objects. And she wants to do something about it. And she forms this club called the Nowhere Girls. And this book is like I said, is so hard to read in places because we are dealing with subject of rape and sexuality and how we interact and how female and male interactions are. And the thing is, it's all fiction, but it's exactly what is happening in today's society. Also, there's a lot of internal discussion about how each one of these girls sees themselves. You know, that idea of this one's the slut, this one's the virgin, this one is the popular one, this one's the weird one. And that is incredibly difficult, but also really important to read. I highly recommend this book, particularly to teenage girls. This is a YA book. But to any woman really, because I think it really will throw up, no matter what age you are, questions and an internal dialogue with yourself, and also how the world sees women. What I also love about this book is it's incredibly diverse. So you've got queer characters. You've also got one of the main characters, Erin, has a she's on the Asperger's scale, so it also deals with that, and I think it deals with that really well. I think she's a well represented character. It also deals with mental health and depression, and like I said, trauma and rape, and it just is an excellent book. And I've actually had this sitting on my shelves for ages, probably over a year, and I haven't read it, and I could kick myself. But Feminist Feb was really the best time to read this. So but I would just highly recommend this book. It was excellent. It was hard, but I think it's very important, and I definitely want to check out more Amy Reed after reading this one. Then the next one I've got here is Raw by Celia Ahern, and this is gorgeous hardback cover. I really like this cover of this book, and this is short stories. Now I'm going to preface this by I'm not the biggest fan of short stories, and I actually DNF'd kind of one of the other short story collections I was reading because I just don't get on well with short stories. But these ones were not too bad. There were a couple I kind of skipped over that I wasn't that interested in. There was one I particularly liked, again, talking about gender and gender politics, and it kind of gave you this sort of slant of the world where everything was gendered and women were, like, everything around women is pink and everything around men is blue, and when you're buying anything or ordering anything, you have to show your pink or blue wristband, and everything's like vagina and penis. It's hard to explain. It's really interesting. So I thought that was kind of my favorite story in this collection. But I think overall I ended up giving up 3 stars. There were some that I liked, some that I didn't like. But it's interesting. It's all female perspective, and it kind of looks at the different experiences again of being a woman. I don't think it was as diverse as it could have been. But it was some of them were good, and some of them did make me think. So particularly that pink and blue kind of one, that was really interesting. There's one where a woman returns her husband back to a supermarket, where you basically buy a husband in a supermarket, which I thought was really funny as well. So there's some good stories, but a bit hit or miss for me. Nowhere Girls was a 5-star read, by the way, one of my favourites of the year. Then the next one I want to talk about, talking about Miss, is this book over here, Vox. I have a whole review, so I'm not going to go too much in a rant because I ranted on that review, and I'll post that review straight away because I don't think I've posted it yet. But this, again, is kind of a dystopian where the idea is that women are only allowed to speak 100 words a day. They're monitored by wristbands, and they are incredibly, so we've kind of gone back to the Dark Ages, but only in the States. So not all over the world, just in America, where it's very right-wing Christian, women have to be obedient to men, rule society, women aren't allowed to work. They literally are there to get married, have babies, look after the house. I thought this was going to be a wonderful kind of feminist tale, and it wasn't. I did not like this book. I gave it 2 stars. I might knock it down to 1. It really infuriated me. It made me angry, but sometimes not for the right reasons. So, if you want to know what more of my thoughts, watch the sort of rant video on this one. But yeah, this was one of the disappointing ones for the month, and there weren't many, but this one, right. From the bad to the very good. So the next one I read is Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe by Fanny Flagg. This was a 5-star prediction for me. I don't know. I'm sort of dithering on 4 stars. I don't know why. Maybe I need to reread it, but needless to say, I really did enjoy this. So this is about a woman. She's visiting her father's mother, so her mother-in-law, in a retirement home. And she makes friends with another woman in this retirement home. And this woman is telling her story about the Whistle Stop Cafe, about the people that owned it, about the families around it, people that went to visit it. And you kind of have this modern day perspective, and then back in the sort of 40s, 50s. And it tells these stories of these characters. And again, almost all exclusively female stories. You have the central 2 characters that own the Whistle Stop Cafe are 2 women in a relationship, and it just is a beautiful book. Again, it makes you think. It makes you think about race relations is a big thing in this as well, about sexuality, about relationships, about how people interact, about love, and it's just really sweet at times as well. And I really, really enjoyed this, and that this idea of one woman telling her story to another woman, again, kind of echoes of 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which I love. So it is a wonderful, wonderful book. So yeah, I would recommend it. It is a kind of a classic, and I can see why, and I can see why so many people love it, and I really enjoyed it. Then the next one that I absolutely freaking loved is this over here, is Bloody Rose by Nicholas Eames. Now, this wasn't a female author, so that wasn't, but so this book is a fantasy adventure about a band of kind of like mercenaries, and this particular band is led by Bloody Rose, so female. You have a lot of really strong female characters that fight, that kill, that are tough. You've got one of the characters, this one over here, who is, as she's essentially bisexual. She sleeps with both men and women, but, there's a beautiful romance with one of the other female characters in it. And there's a lot of action, there's fighting, there's monsters to overcome, there's a lot of kind of thought around personal relationships as well, which I find really interesting. So again, it has some deeper delving, and it has the kind of fun, kick-ass elements, and I love this. It's probably one of my favorite books of the year so far as well. So again, this was for the type of book it is, an absolute 5-star read for me. So I didn't think I would say that, but it really was. And then the next one, again, from the sublime to the not so much, Kate Atkinson, Transcription. I love Kate Atkinson. Kate Atkinson has written some of my favorite books, Emotionally Weird, Behind the Scenes of the Museum, Life After Life. I generally love Kate Atkinson. I was really looking forward to this book. The premise was you've got a woman who was a MI5 spy in the 1950s, and it's now, I think, the 1980s, and she's a reporter, but she's kind of, from the blurb it said she's sort of pulled back into that life and what happened back then. This book was incredibly boring. I found it incredibly boring. The parts where you went back to where she was a spy were boring. The present day parts were boring. The kind of event that the whole plotline hitched on, I found was quite boring. And for the fact that the premise sounded so good, I was so let down. The cover's gorgeous. You know, the book itself, aesthetically, it even has these gorgeous bookmarks in it, is gorgeous, but unfortunately this is going to the charity shop because, yeah, I didn't like it. This was 2 stars. 1 star, sorry. And then a book I did like, to end off this, is this one over here, We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. A lot of people rave about this. I wouldn't rave. I'd say I gave it like a 3.5 star. So it's about this group of kids and their family, and they're on this island, and family relationships, interpersonal relationships. There's kind of a secret that goes on, so I won't tell you too much of the plot. But it was a fun, quick YA read. I enjoyed it. I kind of guessed what would happen, so again, that's why, hence the 3 star. I actually liked Genuine Fraud more, and I know that's a really unpopular opinion. I think out of E. Lockhart's books, people prefer this one. Maybe I'm missing something, but I would still say if you just want a fun YA, slightly thrillery, slightly relationship, slightly whodunit, what's going on in the background read, it was fun. It was a fun time. So yeah, so those are all the books I want to talk about. Yeah, I hope you had a great February reading month. Enjoy March, and I will see you all again very soon. Bye bye.